The sand beneath the wizard's boots shimmered like powdered glass. He stood at the edge of a vast desert lit not by one moon, but 7. They hung in the sky at different heights and colors. One pearl white, one blue, one amber, one violet, one green, one silver, and one so dark it could only be seen by the stars bending around it. Ahead rose a city unlike any he had known. Its towers were grown from living crystal and braided wood. Bridges curved like harp strings between rooftops. Rivers of light moved through the streets instead of water. Gardens climbed walls. Bells chimed with no visible hands to ring them. Nothing in the city looked built. Everything looked become. The wizard removed his hat. "Well," he said, "someone has been showing off." A nearby cactus laughed. He gave it a respectful nod and walked on. The gate of questions. At the city entrance stood no guards. Only an archway of pale stone with words carved across it. "Enter as you are. Leave as you've learned." Beneath the inscription floated a single glowing question: "What do you seek?" The wizard had learned long ago that magical gates dislike cleverness and punish dishonesty with interpretive consequences. He answered plainly, "My forgotten parts." The gate pulsed. Accurate enough. The archway opened. "High praise," he said, stepping through. Streets of living memory. Inside, the streets shifted gently beneath his feet, rearranging themselves according to intention rather than traffic. If he thought of tea, he found cafés. If he thought of silence, gardens appeared. If he thought of old regrets, alleyways tried to sell them back to him at inflated prices. He moved quickly past those. Citizens passed by in robes woven with starlight, mechanics carrying tools that repaired moods, children chasing paper dragons that occasionally became real, and musicians tuning instruments made of weather. No one stared at the wizard. In cities built on wonder, eccentricity barely registers. At the central square stood a fountain pouring upward into the sky. Beside it waited the man whose laughter he had heard. He was taller, older, silver-haired, dressed in simple linen, and carried himself with the kind of ease that cannot be purchased, borrowed, or faked. He looked exactly like the wizard would have looked if he had never once doubted himself. "Well," said the older man, smiling. "You took the scenic route." The wizard studied him. "You're me. I'm one of us. You seem irritatingly balanced." "It's restful, the self who never doubted." They sat beneath a tree whose leaves changed color according to honesty. The wizard explained the clockmakers, the collapsing nodes, the map, the seed, the key, the flight through the portal. The older self listened patiently. When the story ended, he asked only one question. "Do you still think you need permission?" The wizard frowned. "Permission for what?" "To become what you already are." The leaves overhead turned gold. The wizard disliked when trees sided with philosophy. "I came for practical assistance," he said. "Then here is something practical." The older self placed a hand on the table between them. Immediately, the wood became transparent. Inside it, the wizard saw dozens of versions of himself hesitating at thresholds, the inventor waiting too long to begin, the lover afraid to speak, the teacher doubting his worth, the healer postponing service, the artist calling it foolish, the leader waiting to be chosen. Then the vision vanished. "Doubt is expensive," said the older self. "It charges interest in years." The wizard was quiet for a moment. "That was uncomfortably useful. I try." "The Library of Unwritten Books." "Come," said the older self. "There's someone else you need to meet." They crossed a bridge of singing glass and entered a vast circular building with no doors. Shelves spiraled upward beyond sight. Lanterns floated in the air. The smell of cedar, ink, and thunderstorms filled the halls. A sign hovered near the entrance: "The Library of Unwritten Books. Please return all destinies on time." Behind a desk sat a librarian with 12 pairs of spectacles and the expression of someone who had forgiven civilization repeatedly. "We're looking for a volume," said the older self. "Everyone is," said the librarian. "The one about restoring fractured nodes." The librarian sighed and checked a ledger. Overdue by 3 centuries. Who borrowed it? She looked over the rims of 3 different spectacles. You did, the wizard straightened. That sounds unlike me. It was a more chaotic version. She snapped her fingers. A book flew from the upper shelves and landed in his hands. Its cover was blank. He opened it. The pages were empty. This is defective. No, said the librarian. It is unwritten. It becomes instructions only when held by someone ready to act. The letters slowly began to appear. Why the Clockmakers fear joy. The first chapter formed itself in glowing script. The surest defense against domination is a being who remembers how to create. The second line followed. Joy cannot be easily controlled because it generates possibilities faster than fear can organize them. The wizard looked up sharply. The older self smiled. There it is. The Clockmakers don't fear rebellion, not nearly as much as laughter, love, improvisation, and people helping each other freely. The librarian nodded. Entire empires have fallen to shared songs. She stamped a return date onto the air. Attack at moonrise. A bell rang outside. Then another. Then every moon in the sky shifted 1 degree. The older self stood instantly. They found us. Through the crystal walls marched the Clockmakers, ranks of them now, carrying devices that emitted grids of rigid light. Wherever the beams passed, flowers froze mid-bloom and fountains fell into straight lines. The city dimmed. The citizens did not panic. They simply prepared. Musicians tightened strings. Gardeners rolled up sleeves. Children grinned in a way that made military planners nervous. The wizard clutched the blank book. What do we do? The older self turned to him. What do you do when the world becomes too rigid? The wizard thought. Then he smiled slowly. I become unreasonable. Excellent. The festival weapon. They ran into the square. The wizard leapt onto the upward fountain and shouted, Attention, everyone! Immediate emergency. We require excessive beauty, rhythmic nonsense, and coordinated delight. The city moved as one. Drums thundered from rooftops. Lanterns burst into color. Bakers hurled pastries with tactical precision. Children released 100 paper dragons that became magnificently inconvenient. The musicians struck a rhythm so infectious that 2 clockmakers began tapping their feet before realizing the disciplinary implications. The older self laughed and raised both hands. The 7 moons answered. Their light braided together into a radiant wave that passed through the square. Where it touched fear, fear loosened. Where it touched rigidity, rigidity cracked. Where it touched hidden sorrow, tears came first, then relief. The leader of the Clockmakers staggered. What is this? He demanded. The wizard tipped his hat. Community, the gift received. As the invaders retreated into disordered retreat, the older self turned to the wizard and placed something invisible into his chest. The wizard felt it instantly. A settling, a straightening, a quiet end to 1,000 small hesitations. What was that? The gift I came to keep for you. And that is? The older self smiled. Unborrowed confidence. The 7 moons brightened. Far away on the wizard's map, another node came alive. Departure. The blank book now displayed a new destination, the forest of echoing doors. Seek the self who chose mercy over victory. The wizard tucked it into his satchel. He embraced the older self briefly. Will I become you? No, said the older self. Better, you'll become all of us. The fountain opened into a doorway of light. The wizard stepped toward it, then paused. One last question. Yes? How do you stay so calm? The older self grinned. I stopped arguing with reality and started dancing with it. The wizard shook his head. Still irritating. Then he stepped through the light. End of chapter 2.